KSL News at 4 starts now.
Good afternoon. We begin with a developing story on a measles scare quietly tracked in Utah the week before Memorial Day.
News specialist Shara Park joins us live from the Utah Department of Health and Human Services. Shara, why are we just hearing about this now?
Yeah, you guys, that is a great question. A symptomatic case of the measles here in our state, is something that you would expect the health department to notify the public about. But that is not what happened in this particular case. We only learned about it because it was brought up in a Board of Health meeting in the Summit County Health with the Summit County Health Department yesterday afternoon. Take a listen to that meeting.
Derek, can you talk a little bit about the brief scare we had last week and how the public health system caught very early a situation could have got out of hand really quickly and put us on the map?
Now, in that meeting, Summit County Nursing Director Derek Moss told the Summit County Board of Health that on May 19th, a symptomatic measles case landed at Salt Lake City International and drove to southern Idaho to visit family, not making any stops along the way. While in Idaho, he said it's believed the person received some sort of medical treatment, then on May 23rd returned to Salt Lake International and boarded a second plane. Moss told the board state health officials quickly became aware of the measles case and put county health departments on alert. He said the state informed him that the person was vaccinated and explained the decision not to issue a public advisory.
They determined at this point he was low risk and they didn't want to cause chaos. That was the rationale.
Now, the measles is highly contagious, making airline travel extremely dangerous. Moss says the measles case that traveled through Salt Lake International was placed on the CDC's do not board list. However, I just received word from the Utah Department of Health and Human Services that they were never actually placed on that list because they were past their infectious period by the time of that departing flight. Now, Moss says that the Idaho Health Department has agreed to let Utah know if the suspect measles case related to this individual, if any other suspect cases popped up in their state. And so far, we haven't heard about anything here in Utah related to that. So I reached out to the Utah Department of Health to let us know, how this case played out here in Utah and what the public really needs to know. I did receive that statement just moments ago. I will tell you more of what that says coming up tonight at 5 o'clock. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Shara, thanks. We look forward to hearing that at 5.
West Jordan man has been arrested.
In the United States illegally from Mexico. Well, developing tonight, we are learning of a measles case that quietly slipped in and out of Utah last month.
Yeah, so news specialist Shara Park joins us live right now from the Utah Department of Health. That's where officials decided not to inform the public. All right, Shara, explain why.
Yeah, Mike and Debbie, we're getting some new information on this case this afternoon. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services said this individual with measles, this person had been vaccinated and posed a low risk of infection to others. Now, we learned about this measles case because it was brought up in the Summit County Board of Health meeting yesterday afternoon. In that meeting, Nursing Director Derek Moss said that on May 19th, a person with measles flew from Canada to Salt Lake International and drove to southern Idaho to visit family, not making any stops along the way. Then a few days later, came back to Utah.
May 23rd, that same individual came back to Salt Lake. Again, didn't make any stops, but did get on board an airplane while symptomatic.
Well, the Utah Department of Health and Human Services did clarify a few details this afternoon, saying the person became symptomatic while in Idaho, and all exposure concerns were in that state only. They say the person was cleared by health officials there to fly home because they were past their infection period. Now, as a precaution, passengers on the flight were contacted by Salt Lake health officials and connected to services to prevent infection, and at this point, no one has developed an infection. Now, in a statement, the Utah Department of Health and Human Services addressed not informing the public of this measles scare last month, saying public health officials weigh many factors when we decide whether to notify the public about a situation. In low-risk situations, when we are able to address the issue in a more focused and isolated manner, broad public messaging is not always warranted. Additional information would be released if the situation changes or more data suggests an increased risk. Now, measles, as we know, is highly contagious, which is why most medical providers recommend the MMR vaccine. The Utah Department of Health is encouraging Utahns to talk to their doctors about getting that MMR vaccine if they have any summer travel plans. For Live at 5 here in Salt Lake City, I'm Shara Park.
All right, Shara, thanks. All right, checking in with Kevin now. And Kevin, some storms at